Oh my goodness. It has been a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone, happy 2021. I was so blessed and excited to share and interview my brothers on Christmas Day for the as mixed race people for the as the founder of the Mixed Race Women's Collective. And I've been hibernating. I went on hiatus for the winter, and now that we've hit spring, I'm so excited for what we've got cooking up here for you today. And we're in our previous series thus far, at the end of 2020, we spoke a lot and really dove into the mixed race element of being a mixed race woman. And I'm very excited to share that we can continue to bring together people who are mixed race and or who have those mixed race families in their lives that have created them. So that being said, we have here Josefa today, who is going to be sharing with us a little bit about that background, as well as what she taps into in her calling as a woman, right? We've been focusing on mixed race, but I've been really looking to support women through their journey. And Josefa and I align on that same page. So without further ado, I want to introduce you, and you can say a little bit about yourself, and we'll share how I met you too. But what would you like to say? Yeah.
Hi. So yeah, I'm Josefa Dillon, and I am a holistic healer. I am also the owner of Pursue Happiness, which is the name of my company. But I do want to talk a little bit, Mitz, about how you and I met, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting because you were interviewing Gloria, who is mixed race and who I've known since high school. Actually, I've known her since high school, but we kind of didn't know each other very well. And then after she came back into the area, I started following her in her acting career. And that's how you got connected. And so I want to thank Gloria for connecting us in that way. That's really cool. And I loved listening to her story that I didn't know myself. It was great to hear that. But you and I had conversations about mixed race, and while I'm not mixed race, I'm 100% Mexican, but my stepchildren are half Irish and half Mexican. My second husband is Irish. So my children, who are 100% Mexican, basically grew up with an Irish family and Mexican family. And so that's been really interesting to watch, to watch them grow and to see who they are. And it's interesting I think I shared with you, when I got married, it was very difficult for my family to accept that I was not marrying a Mexican man. My second marriage, I was not marrying a Mexican man. I was marrying an Irish man who is an amazing man. He really is. But it was a struggle for them. And I went through a phase where I personally kind of pulled away from my race. Not that I didn't like being Mexican. It was that I didn't want to be identified with only being Mexican. That I wanted to be identified with being a woman, with being more than what I was born into, and being part of this mixed family that we created, my husband and I created, kind of gave me the license to do that, which I really, really appreciated. But then came to a point where my husband started bringing elements of his Irish culture into our home.
Yeah.
And as he started to do that, I started to realize that I needed to bring that in for my children, the Mexican side of my stepchildren, and the Mexican in my children. So I started to do that through bringing artwork into the home. I found a local artist in San Jose who was a Mexican artist who did a lot of Latin art, beautiful Latin art, and I have it all over my living room to kind of let my children see that, yes, there's Irish in our family, but there's also this Mexican side that I kind of pulled away from because I didn't want to be identified with anything. It wasn't that I didn't want to be Mexican. I just didn't want that identity. And it's interesting to see where the culture is now and how that's a lot of conversations that are going on.
Wow.
But to me, realizing that I needed both of those in my life because my children and my grandchildren now are exposed to both of those. I have grandchildren who are Mexican and Irish and Mexican and German. So it's been interesting. While I may not be mixed race, my family is. The
Yeah.
family that I'm with is. So
And
I wanted to share that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I so acknowledge also your desire to create that in your family, right? It could have gone so many ways, and oftentimes maybe we've heard of people or friends that, you know, are looking to fight to kind of dominate a culture or religion, but I'm really hearing your commitment to integrate,
Yeah.
right? Integrate your cultures, your ways of life, your lifestyles, like any couple would do. But really, and this is something special, Mexican and Irish background that you've brought to your family. But also, as you said, that I really actually been thinking about this lately too. Part of some of my hiatus and stepping back in chatting with women is that I thought, it's important to talk about this mixed race conversation, and also like not necessarily completely be defined it, also transcend it and go beyond it, right? And so I think I particularly love to resonate with other people who have experienced mixed race culture and background. And there's other identities that make us who we are, and that's the point, that we can embrace these multiple identities. And so today I'm happy to have you share. I know as we've connected in the last several months since you saw my episode, I think it was episode 3 with Gloria, we've been talking about that divinity of that feminine power, that feminine energy that we have, and being what it is to be a woman, and all these multi layers of that. And we also get that not everyone may subscribe to or identify as, a man or a woman, or there's fluidity. But what we see and what we've experienced in trends as the feminine experience, the feminine role, the energy, girl power, women empowerment, you name it.
Yes.
I'd love to hear, what brings you today to share about that,
As you're speaking, I'm thinking, I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine, and her and I were talking about, we've known each other for many years. She's married, I'm married. But we were talking about how much as women, and it's interesting because I also belong to I have some Facebook pages that are focused on women, and I met some women, a poet in particular, she's amazing, Karina.
Nice.
And she and her poetry is very feminine and very much about excavating your soul and really getting down to who you are as an individual. And yesterday I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how, while we're both married, most of our friends are female, and how comfortable we are with that in our lives right now. Is that having those really deep conversations with other women who are going through similar struggles that we're going through, and the ability to do that has been to create that tribe of women to talk to openly about not only race, but about being a female, and also the other side of me, which I have people starting to come to, the holistic healer side of me. And it's interesting because that ties to my culture. I always have been able to feel energies when I walk into a room. And probably I was in my late 30s early 30s when my husband, I'll tell you this story, my husband actually was working with a woman, and I was having conversations with him at home about these feelings I would get that somebody needed to talk, or somebody was going through a hard time, and I'd call them, and that's where they were, and we'd have a conversation. And I'd be having all of these holistic conversations with my husband, and he would blank out. It's like, okay, he's listening to me, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And he comes home one day and he tells me that he has met this woman at work who works with him, And he says, honey, I gotta bring her home so you can meet her. And I said, okay. And so we brought her home for dinner, and she ended up being the first person who taught me Reiki. And Reiki is a form of energy healing. And she was just starting her own practice and starting to teach Reiki, but it all resonated with what was already going on with me naturally, and had been a part of me since I was a child. And so it gave me the opportunity, while through learning Reiki, it gave me the opportunity to start to define these feelings of energy that I would feel around me. I'd walk into a room, what the feel of the room is going to be. How whether somebody's going to be polite or not. You just feel it when you walk into a room.
And that's fascinating. So I wanted to hear more about that and how that particularly connects for you to, like, is that a feminine power? Is this something that anyone can tap into? What was it that you would say you were experiencing and feeling?
It's interesting. I didn't think of it as feminine or masculine. I didn't know what to think of it. It just was a part of me. But I also know it was a part of my mother. My mother wouldn't talk about it. But growing up in a Mexican family, she would do a lot of purilesmos and rituals with us, but she never talked about it. And she stopped doing it actually when she started going to a church. She stopped doing all those things, but I've been really interested in it. And so I started researching. At the same time I started researching the arts, the Mexican arts, I started researching the milagros that the Mexican women were doing. And as a holistic healer, not only am I certified in Reiki, I'm also certified as a shaman. And that connected me with my cultural roots that are part of me. And it's interesting how the evolution of my spirit has also become the evolution of my femininity, and has helped me to see that we as women are natural healers. Many of us are, probably most of us are, but we don't give it the interest that we should, I think, or we kind of brush it off as well, that's who I am, but nobody's going to believe me, or we don't give it validity. That's the word I'm looking for. We don't give it validity until
until when? That's what I was going to ask, because I'm curious to share my experience about that too. But what do you think it takes for women to actually tap into their healing power?
For me, it was having a partner who never questioned it, didn't think I was crazy, didn't understand it. He absolutely did not understand it. He couldn't converse with me on it. But he came to believe it because he never questioned who I am. He never questioned who I am as an individual. And so that allowed me to grow, and having people in my life who never questioned or made fun of, the fact that I'm a very caring, loving person, but never took advantage of that. I created a world where, for me, in my second marriage, I created a world where I knew I could be 100% me all the time. Even as I was changing, I could be me and it wouldn't be questioned. And I've created that environment for myself. And it was not easy. It was not easy to do.
Let me tell you something.
Okay.
That this is so wonderful, divine to hear this coming from you, because just what you said, driven by God, source, universe, light, like that, we tap into what's really truest and most pure and authentic for us. And we do create our reality. And sometimes we do experience things that we struggle with, and we might wonder, why is that, or what's going on here, or that contrast, right? That negativity. Yes. But there's also, I hear that there was an opportunity for you to discover that, like, I don't want to live life like that anymore.
Right.
Right? I want to shed, like, release those shackles, shed those things from the past,
Yes.
your tapping into that, you know, God source light, tapping into that energy that you were streaming through you felt inside. It's like, it sounds like once you made the choice to own it and to step into your fullness of who you are and your power, it's like that's actually what showed up around you.
Yes.
You right? You had a partner in your life, you met someone in your life who became your husband, who was like, I love you, whatever you do, right? It's great. Like, and that's very inspiring for me. And it's not an accident or coincidence that this is a message that I personally can share, that in the last few weeks, even maybe the last several days and the few weeks has been really instrumental. Like for me I'm seeing everywhere I go, whether, you know, whether it's me as my international breakthrough specialist, like stepping into the next phase of my business and launching my website with clients, or honoring my voice or my singing, which again, that divine feminine power and energy, singing and dancing and light and dating and all of this, and, you know, my spirituality, connection with God. It's like when I show up fully, like that's what it takes for things to show up. The things that I've wanted in my life all this time. Anywhere I've shrunk back, anywhere I've played small or haven't been fully there, right? It's been a question mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I love that because, you know, it doesn't have to be. The clarity can really fully start and the intentionality start within us.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited to hear that, because you know, that is actually a big inspiration for why I started this collective, was to because I wanted women to really tap into the fullness of who they are and embrace their mixed race, or embrace their identity, and then some, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah. So it's like the Reiki. When I started doing Reiki, I did it for myself. I did it for years for myself and for my family. It took me 20 years before I finally decided I'm going to leave corporate America in a very male organization I was in. I was in corporate security, and totally not my personality, but it worked. And I had children to raise to get through college. When I finally made the decision that, okay, I'm going to embrace who I am. I'm going to bring her with me wherever I go. I'm not going to change who I am because I'm in this security industry. I started to bring me with me. I started to put my peace signs up. I started to talk about Gandhi. I started to, in this male-dominated environment, but it also led me to say, it's time for you to leave, Josie. And so I left, and I started with officiating and writing weddings is where I started. And I loved doing that, but at the same time, I thought it was time to become a Reiki master teacher, and to learn and to teach others, and to start to practice the Reiki on other people. What I have found over the last few years is that most of the people who come to me are women, and it's been interesting to watch, and a lot of them are young women. And it's interesting to watch their own growth, to be a part of just holding space so that they can find their voice, so that they can find their truth, because we all have it within us. I don't give answers to anybody. I help people excavate their own answers. It's what I do as a holistic healer. I don't go in with every client. I don't go in with a preconceived notion of what they need. I'm just holding space so that they can find what they need. And it's amazing to watch people start to heal themselves and start to realize they don't need that pill, or they don't need that doctor, or they don't need, that drink. What they need is to get to know themselves. And it's been so rewarding. And like I said, most of my clients have been women, and it's been beautiful to watch them grow, to watch them blossom, and to find their own voice. I've been very blessed with that, with the ability to witness their own growth. Years later, just a couple of years ago, I decided to to take a shamanism class as well, and I started to get, I got certified as a shaman, and I'm still growing in that area, but it also connects very much, as I said earlier, with my roots, with where I came from, with where my grandparents and my own ancestry came from, and it's connected me to people who are no longer alive in ways that I could never connect with them when they were here, getting to know that side of me. I wish that for everyone, because every culture has this healing piece of the culture that we don't talk about in our world today. And it's so needed. It's so needed in our world, especially in our, with our earth, with our resources in the world. We need that. And I think the only way we're going to get there is if the feminine power starts to speak up, because we are Mother Earth. That's who we are as women, and we can help heal that. And I challenge us all to do that, because I think it's definitely definitely needed in the world right now. Yeah. Sorry, I took over there.
No, it's so passionate and so connected what you're sharing. And I invite anyone watching now or the replay, right, to drop a comment if you have a question for Josefa here, as she shares this experience of connecting to that energy and that power. So what would you say, you've mentioned now, about your journey. What do you think has been the biggest shift for you that you've experienced through, unlocking and unleashing your feminine energy in your life as you made this transition from working in corporate America, right? Mm-hmm. And recognizing that you wanted to go deeper to actually step into the healing power that is a gift that you have, that you are tapping into. What's, the gift that you have that from above, like, and within inside you, like, what do you see has been a big shift that you've experienced that you also are training people to experience too, or that you offer to the people that you work with?
For me, it's been trusting your voice. Mm-hmm. We all have a voice inside us that speaks to us, that tells us, hey, that's danger, or hey, no, that would be exciting, or try this. We have that voice inside our heads that we quiet all the time. And what I have found through my practice is people understanding that the voice in their head is someone else's voice. The voice that stops them from doing things isn't their voice. It's the voice of that teacher who said you weren't smart enough, or that parent who said, no, don't do that, you'll hurt yourself, or to that coworker who didn't listen to your advice, or whatever it may be. That it's not your voice. If you stop and you just stop and meditate and allow yourself to be in a quiet space, so that you can get rid of all those other voices and hear your own true voice, then you'll touch into your passion. You'll touch into what you're here for. You'll touch into what God, the universe, how you can help humanity. And it may be minor. It may be, to you, it may be minor. It may be just being a better mom. It could be being better at being more open to people who are different than you. It could be very simple, but it's something that you can bring to the world that can change the energy of the world. This world needs right now. It needs to know that we're all here to support each other, even if we don't understand each other. We're here to support each other, and that for me is it.
That's so beautiful.
That's what I want to share with people. That's what I want people to get in touch with in themselves. That's what my practice is about.
Yeah, that voice. And so let me ask you, that beautiful, stepping a look deeper. I do know that I, as a woman, and I'm sure many other women have experienced, where it's like, you hear the voice and you think maybe it's the anxious voice or the ego, critical mind, monkey mind, lizard brain voice, as we say. But sometimes, might be keeping us safe, trying to protect us for something. What kind of strategies or practices or methods modalities would you say people you can tap into, especially as a woman, to like discern, right? Because I do think that there's sometimes things that don't feel right anymore. And is it that it's always something that's built up in the mind that's like that's constraining us from moving forward, or are there actually like these intuitive hits or messages or energies that we receive that say, hey, it's time to end this, it's time to walk away, it's time to let go, that is not being stopped by fear, but actually like guiding you to choose to release something. So I wonder what you think about that distinguish, because I definitely in my life right now experience that in dating and romantic relationships, and in some in some of the ventures or projects that I'm in, that I think, okay, it's like that question mark comes up of, is this doubt or fear stopping me, or is this maybe just I'm not feeling inspired here anymore, and rather than committing to and following through on something, maybe it's not, maybe I want to divert my energy from this space to elsewhere, right? So what do you think?
And I think it's both. I think, if you have doubt or fear, then it's telling you something. If you have an intuition to do something, then it's telling you something. So it's all of those messages that we get. And some are, hey, this isn't working out. Maybe it's time to move on. Well, then maybe it's time to move on. And maybe it's time to move on to something you don't know. And that's the fear. That's the fear of, if I let this go, I've got nothing. Well, no, if you let it go, you open yourself up to other things. And that's I think what I know I spent most of my life saying, I'm not going to let this go because, it's what I know. And then, but there's this other thing calling me, and every time I let it go, this other thing pulls me, and I don't always know what that other thing is. Like right now, I'm going through some shifts in my own business, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna let this go, but should I really let it go? But I'm being pulled over here, and if I don't let this go, I'm not going to be able to create this other thing, which is important, and I'm being called to it. So I have to trust that I'm being called to that for a reason, and this other thing I can let go of right now. And it's trusting your voice. It's trusting that piece inside of you that tells you, oh, that's not right. This isn't safe. Pull away from it, and being okay with that. Or when you're walking down the street and you say, oh, that this street doesn't feel comfortable, and not continuing down the street, but choosing the other street, choosing to go down the other street, and it's safer. So it's just trusting your inner voice, not the chatter. And this is a lot of my practice, not the chatter of everybody else, but your inner voice. And sometimes it's hard to identify your inner voice when you hear the rules that everybody else has imposed on you that may not be for you. They may not be yours, and really weeding through those in order to find your authentic voice, the voice that's telling you what to do, which is not everyone else's voice. That's been my biggest obstacle, is not hearing all the voices that I heard growing up, that I was too quiet, that I was too shy, that I couldn't do this, that I couldn't do that, and realizing that, well, no, I can do that. If it's a desire within me, then I can do it. I have to get rid of those other voices, those critical voices, wherever they came from.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I wonder, right there, in the spirit of unlocking and listening to the feminine voice and that energy, right? That intuition, which I wonder, I think sometimes what might hijack, right? Like you said, that other voice to say, but like, how do I know if I made the right decision? How do I know if I did the right thing, so to speak, right? And it's like, because sometimes people feel like, I'll speak, I know, I'm thinking there's sometimes where I say, oh, well, I was really present, I was open, and I got connected to something, and I cried, and now like something shifted here, and this person didn't like that, or whatever, you start to see things that show up that maybe oppose what maybe you really wanted, right? If you were you're listening to yourself, how do you, something I've heard, and I wonder what your take is, like I've heard people say, like, look, if you were being true to yourself, right? There's no negotiating that. It's like what shows up, even if at first it's not pleasant or not what you think you wanted, what's what you're making space for, clearing the space for, is for actually what you truly want to show up. You know, maybe say you follow your intuition and you go, but I went that way and then I got into a car accident, or I went this way and I lost my key, or I did this and then I said this thing and this person didn't want to talk to me anymore, whatever, right? So I wonder what you'd have to say about that. You know, when we follow our, do we know right away? Can we tell? Is it a feeling? Is it an energy that's like a free? Like, well, how do you know? How do you know that you're on the right track? That you're following your voice?
Right. And sometimes you don't know right away. Sometimes you let it go and it hurts. It hurts to let that go and you feel the pain of that. But so it may not be immediate is the point. It may not happen immediately, but you find that, when in looking back, it's like, oh, I let that relationship go. And when I let it go, this opened up for me. And this was scary, but look where I am today. Look at how much joy I'm getting out of this. And I had to let that go in order to do this because for whatever reasons, maybe that person was going to hold you back. Maybe your own doubt of the fact that, well, if this person doesn't like me, then I must be doing the wrong thing. Well, no, that's, if you're doing the right thing for you and this person didn't support you, then you did the right thing for you. And it sounds selfish, but it's not, because you freed them as well to go find that someone that's more aligned with them. So it's not selfish. It's being true and honoring yourself. And you may go down that road and it may be the wrong one for you, but you learn something from it to find the next road. So it's not the end of the road just because it was the wrong turn. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. That's so great and brilliant. So I love that, hearing that space of really intuiting, right? Tapping into our guidance system that's within us, that feminine energy and the energy to really like lead the way. What are there any other thoughts or when you think about, if there was something else that you would give as like a tip for women that are feeling disconnected from themselves or feeling unfulfilled or stuck kind of where they're at? Can you think of, maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that could be some tips that you would say, this is what I encourage you to step into, something that people can do kind of on a day-to-day that maybe could be, that of course stepping into larger, deeper practices works too, but what's something simple? What's a simple shift that you think? We talked about listening to your own voice, right?
Yes.
What else?
So I think for me, and I have found this with my clients as well, is taking the time, even if it's just 5 minutes, to meditate and let go of everything, all thoughts that aren't yours. And in that 5-10 minutes of meditation, really allowing yourself to release everything so that you can start to hear your voice. Because we're such busy people, especially women. We're very busy. But if we take those 5-10 minutes in the morning just to stop, maybe put on some soft music and just let go of all your thoughts. Don't think about, okay, I'm meditating, I've got to figure this out. Just let go of all your thoughts. And as you let go, and knowing that you can bring those back at the end of your meditation if you need to, but let go of those thoughts and then let whatever comes through come through. You'll get answers that you never expected. And when you come back, some of those things that you were worried about, you may say, you know what, I don't need to worry about those. I don't need to bring those back in. These things I need to bring back in, but those I don't. Really being with yourself at least 5, even if it's only 5 to 10 minutes. And meditation's not easy. I remember the first time I did meditation, because I had 4 children. I was the oldest of 5 children. I was always the one taking care of everybody. Trying to clear my thoughts was hard. It was really hard. What helped was not giving up and doing it every day, even for 5 or 10 minutes. And I'd get up early before the kids woke up, and I'd sit there for 10 minutes before I went and got them up, just so that I could get rid of the busyness of the previous day and sit with my thoughts. And that's when things start to create a life that's yours, not a life that's everyone else's.
live, right? And by virtue, a life that you absolutely love, right? A life that's powerful. And I'm so glad that you're speaking to that, because, you know, in our last several minutes, that brings me to the, you know, reflection of the importance of doing that internal, like going through that internal experience, right? Having that dialogue with yourself, and actually really embracing the voice in your head, right? Not the voice in your head, but rather the voice from your heart, right? The voice that tells you, look deeper, go there, stop, pause.
The voice of your soul.
The voice of your soul and spirit. And, you know, those of us that, I think those of us, I want to just say, those of us that are connected to God and source, light, universe, faith, whether it is through religion or through just general spiritual practices, that, like, you know, it show in whatever lens you view it, it shows up in that special way within us. That's the thing that people talk about, you know, that is at the, like, in common, right? Regardless of the name or the practice or the space, the shape or the form. It's like, you know, God, source, light, Jesus, whoever you are, you know, Buddha, whoever you kind of looking at. And again, people have their different ways to practice or what they believe, but that current runs within us, that energy, and that is there fueling and speaking to us. And that is like our voice too in this here in this human form, right? That is our voice that we can be really listening to. And so I just love that you shared all that, because I do want to say that a big part of what has brought me to where I'm at now, that I'm, you know, organizing and supporting this collective, bringing together women, connecting with wonderful women like you. It's all made possible by listening to that voice, right? And to step into my power and having done the work. And when we talk about the work, I'm not even talking about pushing and forcing through. Sometimes that may have felt appropriate in the past, but that's actually something that we've been identifying more and more across the collective globe as like an older paradigm view, that oftentimes there isn't the need for that hustle and that force, that really just tuning in, like what you said. I second that, like tuning into that, like space of like quietness, holy sacred space with yourself, to connect to God, source, light, yourself, meditate, pray, not in this like yearning, longing, dreadful way, but in this, you know, that energy, that God, that source is like a peace, a stillness, a love, right? And through there, right from there, you can, that's like the nothingness, that's the space to create from there, right? And get clear on, okay, so what do I intend right now, right? What's the target today? And it can move and it can evolve, but like how you're going to be in that space, right? And so saying all that's brought me through years of growing up as a performer, actor, singer, dancer with this mixed race and mixed, you know, like interfaith background, and exploring and teaching and traveling and working behind the scenes and with different families and many communities. That now brings me to my own business and connecting to different people, right? Enjoying this time, chilling. This is my now getting some time to expand and enjoy, relax on spring break, and it's great. And it just continues to evolve, right? And I continue to act and sing and dance now in social distance and online. And so I just want to just Uber plus one that it's like it can happen for you when you trust and let go of how you think it's supposed to look like, but rather what your soul, what your gut, what your inner being is telling you, right?
And it's so against the way the world works today. Everything is quick, and get to the next thing. And this is taking time to stop and hear that inner voice within you, and get rid of all the other chatter that's going on, because there's a lot with social media, with feeling like you have to post something, and it's like, okay, but where's your voice? Where's your voice in all of that? You know, it's
and yeah, because, you know, another thing that I know myself and many people maybe dealt with, sometimes concerns about mental health, emotional health, other chatter that gets in the way, and whatever, that's part of our journey, wherever energy we think that comes from, or our own internal blocks or other forces outside of us. Either way, it's like, that's not us, right? That's something we can embrace and navigate. That's kind of part of our journey here, what it looks like to get free from that. So, well, that being said, you know, I'm so grateful that we've had this opportunity to explore and navigate and share this, you know, and this is stuff that, you know, people watching live, people watch the replay, can be a lot to digest if you've never really heard people talk about this before. And so for that reason, I want to make sure that we give up an opportunity for people to know how to contact you, what you're up to right now, what services you offer, if you'd like to speak more to Josefa specifically as a holistic healer. So why don't we take the moment to do that now? What can you share? And I can drop something and a caption too.
Okay. So I do have a website. It's pursuehappiness.com, pursue without the E. So it was not available, so that's why it doesn't have the E. And on there are my services, the holistic healing that I do. I utilize Reiki, I utilize hypnotherapy, I utilize shamanism, I utilize a lot of sound through different instruments as well. I also, on there are the weddings that I do, but I'm also in the process of creating I should have it done by the end of summer, sometime midsummer, is a Reiki 1 class. I know you and I spoke a little bit about that. The Reiki 1 class, there are 4 levels of Reiki, and the Reiki 1 class, I really want to focus on self-healing and really work with the students to really hone how to use the energy of Reiki, and not just give you a certification and have you walk away and try to practice. I want to work with you after the class to really hone in on, okay, how do I use this energy? What do I do with it? Because you will feel it. Once you get the certification, you will feel your own energy start to rise up. And so I'm really excited about teaching that class. It's been kind of brewing in my head for a couple of years, and I'm ready to create it and teach it. So I'm really excited about that.
That's so amazing. So as you can see right down here, I have it, pursuehappiness.com, pursue without the E. Definitely check out Josefa's services. And like I said, I've experienced one session with you, and it's been lovely to tap into that deeper healing space, and with all that you do. And so I'm so excited for people to see that, to know that, and also, you know, to just share if you're interested in getting to know a little bit more, of course, about what I do. I'm here often. You can find me on my Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. But now coming soon, launching this week is myamitza.com, where I'm sharing about the things that I do in having breakthroughs with people and specialists. And I'm so excited that our paths have crossed for us to collaborate, work together, and serve one another too. And women, really, what we have that in common, our commitment to working specifically with women. And I know that a lot of your clients have ended up being mixed race women too, which is perfect. So we're in this together. Amitza and Josefa today. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Any last thing you'd like to say to leave our viewers and listeners with today?
Just kind of what we've been talking about today. Trust your voice. Get to know who you are. Get to know who your voice is, not the chatter in your head, but really who you are.
Yes. And that's so perfect. Trust your voice. We want to hear who you are. We want to hear from you speaking up. And especially if you are a mixed race woman or a woman that wants to chat with me, chat with us, please feel free to contact us. I am the founder of this Mixed Race Women's Collective that this Mixed Race Women's Speak series is brought to you by that. So please connect, join us, and I'll invite you into a Facebook group and you can be seen live on here next. So thank you all so much. Lots of love. Blowing kisses. So much fun.
Bye.
Bye.